So we are easing into a solid PG-13 topic, which we always promise to handle tastefully and sensitively. We hope you trust us with that, and at the same time want to give you time to push pause or send little ears out of the room. So we know the birds and bees isn't a one and done conversation, but there is a cutoff, right? Well, not so fast. My next guest wants you to keep up those important intimacy conversations all through young adulthood. In fact, today she's laying the groundwork for a pre-wedding to-do list for parents that has nothing to do with reception details or RSVPs. Dr. Liz Hale joining me with advice for preparing your adult child for healthy sexual intimacy. Great to see you, Liz.
That's nicely done. I love that. So
just when we thought the awkwardness was done at 13, we got to revisit it at 23 or whatever age that is.
Well, ideally, it will be done all through the years, right? As soon as you bring that baby home and compliment them on their dirty diaper or filling that diaper up and using the correct terms. Sadly, we just stop a little shy. What usually the feedback that young couples get, the advice they get is, you know what, it's natural, you'll figure it out. And boy, does that leave a lot to be desired. And big problems can start from wedding nights and honeymoons. And then I see them in my office 20 years later, and we're still struggling from those very early days. So this is a big deal.
First moments. So what's the overall goal for parents to consider as they embark on this conversation that might not feel comfortable for them?
Right, right. The biggest goal is to do no harm, of course, right? You don't have to be an expert in all things, but at least help your child find an expert. Or at least, you know, kind of own some of the things, some of the mistakes that you have made. That really gives kids a lot of permission to go forward in this new threshold.
You say chances are even a sexually experienced adult child might have misconceptions about what healthy sexual intimacy is, and that could be a good place for parents to start.
Yes, I don't think it's ever too early or ever too late, usually not too late, to be able to get somebody to course correct and really find out what's going to be good information. So correct and clarify. You know, parents are always sharing their beliefs about sex. Even if they're not talking about sex, they're teaching their child that in this house, we don't talk about it. It's too shameful, right? We don't bring it up. So you're always talking. And if you want to know how you've come across regarding sexuality to your children, your adult children, ask them. You know, and just know that perhaps you came across as, you know, I was afraid to bring it up to you when you were younger because I thought that if I was more specific, you might give you more permission. So I didn't, I was afraid. And I'm afraid that I made you afraid. And something now that you think is more secret than sacred. So it's never too late to course correct, even as a parent. I think it really does give kids that idea is that, okay, I'm gonna be okay, especially a young woman who's scared, who maybe hasn't had any kind of sexual experience at all. And that's in very conservative religions. There's a lot of fear, unnecessary fear, and knowledge is power. So we need to get them educated. We don't have to have all the answers, but we need to take them to someone who does.
Well, I was going to ask you that because it could, as I referenced, be awkward for parents, especially at this later stage in life, to revisit or bring up again. So you're saying point them to people who feel a little more comfortable with it, perhaps?
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't want to share our personal experiences. We want to give them information without telling them about our sexual experience, right? And trust me, kids usually don't want to know about their parents' sexual experience. But one of my favorite experts in this area is Stacy Golding. She has this great class online. It's an hour and a half, and it's called True Intimacy. And I tell you, I'm a fan of hers. But young couples, it's really geared to couples who have not had much sexual experience, in particular, those of Christian theology and those who have been members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But it's really open for anyone. You just might be hearing Bible verses or, you know, quotes from church leaders, but anyone can really learn from it. Stacy covers the whole gamut from how to go from no to go, some of the how-tos of sexual intimacy, and even the communication, and all about consent and permission and pleasure. I think it's just so important.
It sounds like a
I
solid
actually
resource.
gave it to my nephew and his bride-to-be about a year ago. And at the reception, his father came up to me and he says, "Thank you so much for that class." I am so glad I didn't have to have one more conversation with yet my third son. And because when he went to talk with them, Sam, I'll call him Sam, just say, "Hey, Dad, we're good. You know, Susie and I, we watched the video. I think we feel really confident going into our honeymoon and wedding night especially."
So gift to the parents as
Isn't
much
that
as to
great?
the...
Yes, I just love that. And parents, you can watch that too. Again, you know, even some of my seasoned couples in my office, I'll say, "Let me tell you about True Intimacy, this cool course. You need to know about it for your children and your grandchildren." And I hear the same thing again and again. Where was this course when we were getting married? it could have saved us a ton of painful pitfalls.
All right, good.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you for that resource. You know, family planning is an area where typically parents know to stay, you know, hands off. It's their life, it's their decision. Is there any, though, appropriate guidance parents can offer up front in that topic category?
Most certainly, you know, especially when many of our young adult children are still on our insurance plans, right? So that's a natural gateway to say, especially if a daughter, let's go to the gynecologist, you know, let's go and let them know, him or her, that this is your first experience and they might have some ideas. If this couple is interested in birth control, please make sure that they're going to the gynecologist well in advance. You know, 6 months even is not too early, because sometimes the birth control pills can really wreak havoc on young women. So you want to know that you can go in and change it out or change to something else like a diaphragm or IUD. Give them really plenty of time so they're well prepared. Not all young women wear tampons, but if your daughter does, that's a great arena also to encourage her to try a size up, just to get ready for stretching that vaginal wall. Again, why are we doing this? Because we want to avoid the negative feedback loop that says sex is painful, because that really can mess with someone's psyche and soul and their thinking.
Well, that speaks to this idea of expectation, and you say that should really be a prominent part of this conversation,
Yes,
right?
that's true.
Healthy expectation.
That's right. That's right. You know, think of just the wedding day itself. It's crazy, right? And it's a social high and so wonderful. And you're exhausted when you get back, or you may even still have high expectations. I tell all my couples in pre-marriage therapy, it's like, just go and let that evening be calm and relaxed. Enjoy each other. You know, there's so many other steps between no to go, and really enjoy that. You know, you can touch and rub and massage. It can be a wonderful night. Nobody cares that you don't consummate your marriage that first night. It's really difficult to do, and I think it'll be more pleasurable even going on into the next day.
So maybe healthy expectations become low expectations.
That's true. You've got a whole lifetime, right? We've
Yeah.
got weeks, months, years to practice being intimate, and I think it really is about practice and getting to know each other's bodies.
We've got 1 minute left. You do
Yes.
want to emphasize as well the importance of consent in this conversation.
Teach your young daughters and your young sons that just because you're married, it's not a green light. This is probably the biggest mistake I see in couples, and this injury lasts for decades, where we think, well, you know, what are you going to do for me? You know, is what a husband recently said to his wife. What do you mean what I'm going to do for you? Sadly, that has been this idea that as long as it's not painful and husbands are happy, that's good enough. So we need to really help young women have their voice. It's about pleasure for both of you. This is an experience for two people, not just in particular just one. It's a very beautiful and sacred moment, and it just really helps couples bond together and bind through life. It's important. And I'm sorry to make parents be a little bit responsible, but they have such power in this, in helping prepare.
Well, thank you for helping us prepare and giving us the words in the script, Liz. Well done. Thank you very much.